coming on. McKenna's there. And he's got
dropped it.
Oh!
He dropped it.
No shit trying to get back. How about that? Oh, my! The Red Sox have life. Rev Snyder, the base runner. Swinging a drive. This one deep. Oh, it's high. That ball should be out. That ball should be out. That ball is out. It is gone. It is gone. It's a walk-off for the Red Sox.
Ladies and gentlemen, based on what we've seen in the first weekend, obviously it's extremely early, but we might have a super fun Red Sox team this year. For a variety of reasons, some good, some not so good. Let's get into it. Now, as with any evaluation that takes place early on in an 162-game regular season, one has to be careful not to overreact to very small sample sizes, and that's just true of baseball in general. However, the Red Sox, despite playing against a Baltimore pitching staff that probably will have its share of issues with depth and overall skill level this year, the attitude that the Sox hitters displayed as a team in the box in the first series of the season, especially when down by 3 runs or more, was a stark differentiation from what we saw as Red Sox fans early in the season last year. What do I mean by that? Unfortunately, last year, before the season really went off track due to injuries and other things, the Red Sox starting staff really actually performed quite well. The Red Sox were in games or ahead early on in very, very consistent ways. In games where the Red Sox were either ahead by a little bit or tied, they would leave opportunities to score runs on the table with alarming regularity given the caliber of bats that were supposedly in the lineup, meaning that over time, they left their bullpen out to dry. And obviously, with the lack of bullpen depth that that team had, especially over the course of the season, that was never going to be a formula that led to consistent winning. And obviously, there were a lot of issues that plagued the team, especially injury-wise, over the course of the year. But early on, that team did have an opportunity to accrue a lot of victories had they hit reasonably with runners in scoring position overall. They just didn't. There were unfortunately too many at-bats in the Red Sox lineup over the course of last year's season that were taken up by guys who didn't have good command of the strike zone and therefore were impatient and took poor at-bats in general. Bobby Dahlbeck, Jackie Bradley Jr., Franchi Cordero, Jarren Duran. These guys were just unfortunately not ready to produce at a high enough level on a consistent enough basis to make that Red Sox team a winning team. And listen, that doesn't mean that they're terrible players or that they'll never be able to make positive contributions at the major league level. It just means that they weren't particularly ready last year, and that's okay. This team, however, appears to be full of guys, especially in the starting lineup, who can take those really good quality at bats, who can turn the lineup over and put constant pressure on a starting pitcher, get the pitch count up early, make them sweat, and score enough runs, especially in Fenway, which is a significantly offensively tilted ballpark, especially in the middle of the summer when the ball flies, to protect the starting pitching staff, which I think it was pretty obvious early on in spring training was going to be a weakness for this team. Now, that doesn't mean that the starting staff right now looks like it's completely beyond saving. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in a second, but let's look at the lineup first. Looking at how this lineup performed in the first weekend, again, against a Baltimore pitching staff that is certainly not above reproach, but the number of quality at-bats taken by guys like Tristan Casas, Duvall, who was the hero over the weekend, even Kike Hernandez, who would be probably the first one to tell you he was not great at the beginning of last year. He wasn't patient. He really struggled out of the gate. But there are so many guys in the lineup who you can trust on a game-by-game basis, Yoshida certainly among them, to take a good at-bat, to put pressure on the pitcher. And Justin Turner, even if he might not be a guy who is a superstar addition, the leadership that he provides off the field is something that ties the team together and provides a really good conduit from the manager, Cora, who I maintain is one of the best, if not the best manager in the game. It's just invaluable, and Turner has always been that guy, trustworthy as a leader. And you saw a great example of that leadership, that unwillingness to give up, even though the Red Sox were down multiple runs. The team didn't simply fold, even though Baltimore had a lot of momentum. They kept the pressure on, and they were rewarded in a relatively miraculous way in Game 2, but they almost came back in Game 1, and they carried the momentum from Game 2 into Game 3, and they were able to cap the series with a win, even though, again, Tanner Houck was unspectacular. And I think that that's going to be the pattern, unfortunately, especially in Fenway as the summer goes on this year. The Red Sox are going to get a lot of either suspect or downright bad pitching performances, and their offense is going to have to keep them in games. I'm just so much more confident as a fan this year that if the team stays healthy, this lineup is capable of doing so. So that's the more fun part of the equation for the Red Sox and their team thus far. But we'll be back relatively soon with the rundown of the other side of the coin, the pitching staff, which on most nights thus far has felt less sturdy than an IKEA dresser. So like, subscribe, and comment all of your thoughts on the Red Sox or how you feel about your team early on. Would love to get the conversation going. And don't forget to jump into my stream if you want to have longer conversations about the pitch clock and stuff like that. Stream baseball basically every night. Thank you guys so much for watching, and enjoy the games.